What's up, Packers fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Draft. I am your host, Ross Uglum, and today we are going to kind of start my take on each draft pick. I had some really cool conversations with some guys that covered these, at least the first, I think we got to Evan Williams, so the first six picks. That was really cool. Don't really have a connection with the Duke person, and then you get into like Georgia State, you get into Tulane. Would have been difficult to sort of continue that series. Not impossible, but difficult. And I kind of wanted to get into my take really into the meat of the draft class after my recap, after the UDFA thing, and after kind of the those interviews that we were able to do, right? And so getting into what I'm going to do pick by pick, and it's good because Andy and I don't agree on everything. I think that's important. And also to see some criticism of this because Andy was pretty tough on Tyron Hopper, and I've disagreed with the Hopper pick, and we might end up being wrong about that. We might end up being wrong about picks that we like, and they might not. In fact, I would guess that will happen because I liked a lot of these picks, and they're not all going to turn out. But with that said, I just like people to have kind of the context, and I'm not trying to lecture here, but I don't know that if Andy and I agree with everything the Green Bay Packers do, and we say like Jordan Love's going to the Hall of Fame with Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst is the best GM in the world, they're going to win the next 8 Super Bowls. I don't know how much value that has. I don't know how much value it has when we say positive things if everything that we say is positive. And I think most people, especially fans of the other 31 teams, would probably call Andy and I homers, and that's fine, whatever. But that's just something I wanted to kind of get out there is like our positive opinions, our praise of the Green Bay Packers, of the moves that Brian makes, of really any of it, it means very little if that's all we do is just cheerlead. So, but this is going to be some cheerleading because I like to pick with Jordan Morgan here. As far as went on X, went on Twitter and said, what do you want? What do you want this to be different, right? Andy and I don't agree on everything else, but also I just did a deep dive and kind of followed the same structure that Andy follows or the same sort of script that Andy follows, just with my opinion instead of his. I don't know how valuable that is. Plus, we've always designed the daily draft to, the daily draft to be a little bit more digestible from a time standpoint. I think Andy's deep dives are more of like a podcast length, 35, 40 minutes, right? The commute, the average podcast, they tell you 35, 40 minutes. And these are supposed to be, between 8 and 18. So I kind of can't cover everything that Andy covers. The one thing that I kind of already had in my head and then really got responded to on X, and, everybody's kind of on the same page, which is look forward. Christian's a little crooked here. We gotta get this figured out. We gotta get the actual brewski in the shot here. Oh, that's not how that works, idiot. You gotta back it up. Sorry, I'm losing it a little bit here. Anyway, how do we make it different? I'll look forward. Okay. I'm gonna look a lot at fit, a ton at fit. I'm not saying Andy doesn't do that, but we're gonna look a ton at fit. I'm gonna talk about the development track at each position. I'm gonna talk about when we should expect to see them play, when should we expect to see them be good? If they're going to be good, when are they going to be good? And also some improvements that need to be made and improvements, that I think can be made. Projection into the scheme. Like we're going to really take what I do here and look forward and no longer break down kind of what they did in college. Now, especially when you go negative or especially when you bring up things they struggled with in college, part of that evaluation has to be a part of this conversation. It just does. I don't know what else to tell you. We can't talk about what they need to improve upon if we don't talk about what they struggle with in college. We can't talk about the things they can do well if we don't talk about the things they did well in college. Part of that has to be a part of this look forward. Anyway, starting with Jordan Morgan. If available, I'm going to kind of pull up their mock draftable. It's a little bit different than the RAS stuff because I want to use the actual like percentiles. And not that you can't easily compute RAS to percentile, but I do. We're gonna go away from RAS and more towards mock draftable spiderwebs when we just talk about simple athletic profiles. Okay, his height 6'5". He's in the 30th percentile height for a tackle. He at 311 is in the 41st percentile weight. So not super small, but smaller than average, very Packers-ish. 32 7/8 inch arms, that's very short. That's very short. That is going to be the number one talker when you talk about his athletic profile. Combats that with 11-inch hands. 95th percentile size baseball mitts for hands. Talk about grip strength. That's something that not only shows up on film, but logically, right? Giant hands, grip strength, it makes sense. Did not do a ton of the testing, but did have an 82nd percentile broad jump, which Brian Gutekunst is obsessed with. I am not surprised that Jordan Morgan did not do, at least publicly, a bunch of agility tests 1 year off of an ACL injury, especially the way that they line up those agility tests. Could he have done them in a friendlier environment or with more energy at Arizona's Pro Day? Yep. I think there's a decent chance, though, that Jordan probably got information, excuse me, that was positive, meaning, as was discussed, people called it a reach. People called the Jordan Morgan pick a reach. People, thought that maybe it wasn't necessary to take him where they did. Then all this stuff comes out. Acme Packing Company, Justice Wascada, a bunch of people. Hey, Dallas, and I mean, Jerry Jones just said it, like Dallas was in. A couple other teams were considering. Definitely wasn't making it to pick 41. On and on. That's your guy. Go get him. Done. And so I'm guessing that he also got some of that information. Like, and I don't know. Like, I think Green Bay plays things super close to the chest. So whether someone's like, hey, Brian Gutekunst really likes you at 25, I don't know about that happened. But hey, we've heard Dallas maybe likes you. Jerry Jones showed us his big board, like stuff like that. So that might be why we didn't get agilities on him, but I'm not too concerned. Where he projects, let's talk about team fit first. I think they're going to give him a shot at left tackle. I wish we had agility drills because he moves like a cat, man, for a guy that size. He's so quick. He's so good in space. He turns directions so well. And I thought that even coming back from the ACL injury, I thought he really turned direction or changed directions quickly, efficiently, well, et cetera, et cetera. I think he's a super impressive athlete, and I wish that, we could kind of quantify that so people would understand why Green Bay was probably so darn interested. I think that agility, his feet, his ability to mirror, his grip strength will kind of combat some of that arm length stuff, the height stuff, the weight stuff. Below average height, below average weight, and very below average arm length, I think can be concerning for people. To that end, I will say he's got really good bulk, really good thickness. He is an effective run blocker. I do think, and I think it's a little bit concerning, not necessarily concerning. And we'll talk about a team structure thing in a second because I do find some of this stuff interesting. I think his best NFL position is probably left guard. And that's part of why I've kind of cautioned people against just throwing Sean Ryan into the bust category. Josh Sitton famously talked about left and right side of the offensive line as learning to wipe yourself with the other hand. I was not an offensive lineman. I'm a bigger guy now, but I was like a $155 soaking wet when I played football in high school. There's a wide receiver, free safety, a slow one, but I had bunnies. I could high point the ball. But I was very, very not good. I was very, very not good at football. I wonder if, I don't know that that's their plan, because I don't know that they would necessarily take a guard at 25. But with that said, he is a 4-year starter at left tackle. And moving back to the Sean Ryan thing, he was a 3-year starter, I think, at left tackle at UCLA, or 2.5-year starter. He had not played the right side. You can ask an offensive lineman, but I think most of them will tell you, and not everybody, I'm sure, will agree. Left tackle to left guard is easier than left tackle to right tackle, I think, for most guys. Now you're talking about moving left tackle to right tackle and then kicking into guard. Like, you're playing a different position and you're playing a different side of the line. And that's why a little bit too, when guys are, Jordan Morgan, you just leave Sheet alone, throw Jordan Morgan in there. Head-to-head competition with Sean Ryan, best man win at right guard. You're going to make Jordan Morgan switch sides of the line and positions and expect him to be out there week one? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And that's sort of that's sort of the situation with everything as far as what they have on the offensive line. Andre Dillard, I mean, basically famously, you talked to like Mark Eckel, who works for us at Pack Report, covered the Eagles forever. His Eagles buddy tell him Dillard doesn't want to play the right side, doesn't want to play right tackle, doesn't want to play right guard, basically doesn't want to play anything but left tackle. Okay, that's fine if you're really good, but Dillard hasn't been. He was okay with the Eagles and he was bad with Tennessee. If you're going to be okay, you're valuable as a 6th or 7th offensive lineman, but you need to be okay at like 3 spots or it's hard to keep you on a roster. So they can teach him left guard. That's okay. Some left guard, left tackle. Rasheed Walker, to my understanding, and I'm going to just quick pop on PFF so I'm not speaking out of turn here, but Rasheed Walker, to my understanding, is a left tackle in college and then again in the pros. I'm sure I could look at his preseason snaps for the Packers, and I would guess that there are probably some right tackle snaps. But you look at 2021, 727 left tackle snaps and 2 at left guard. 2020, 726 snaps at left tackle. 2019, 644 snaps at left tackle and 29 snaps at right. And then in 2018, he didn't really play. So she does not have real flexibility. He has theoretical flexibility. Andre Dillard apparently just doesn't have flexibility. Jordan Morgan is a flexible body type. He's a flexible looking dude, but he doesn't have actual proven move around the line flex. All their guys, I shouldn't say all their guys, a lot of their guys are really left side of the line trained, left side of the line comfortable. Thank God that Zach Tom isn't that way. I wonder if Elton Jenkins couldn't play some right guard because that could open up a lot of stuff for you. And that's what I mean by, look, you want to have Jordan Morgan play guard with kind of his thick lower body, his short arms. Okay. I wouldn't have him also change sides of the line. So if Elton could play right guard, and your question is, do I want Sean Ryan to stick at right guard and play Elton at left guard, or do I move Elton to right guard so that I can play Jordan Morgan at left guard and have Sean Ryan back up a bunch of positions? Because he has some tackle flexibility potentially, like tackle in a pinch type flexibility, 3-year starter in the Pac-12. The handedness stuff is really interesting with these guys because Sheed's not a right side guy. Dillard's like, I don't want to play the right side guy. Elton Jenkins has shown that his best position is left guard. Where's the depth? Who wants to play on the right side? I mean, Zach Tom is a center/left tackle by trade. They're lucky he's that good over there. So that whole thing's interesting to me. Long term, though, I think it's clear they're going to give him an opportunity to win that left tackle position. And if he doesn't, he's going to be, I think, a really good guard in this league for a long time. I think he has enough power now that I think he can really work at guard. I don't know if he's ever necessarily going to be a road grader, but I think he would be such an elite interior pass protector, guys. Such an elite interior pass protector. And beyond that, I think he would also give you more than tackle in a pinch flexibility as well. Like if he was your starting left guard and Rasheed Walker got hurt, Sean Ryan right guard, Elton Jenkins left guard, and Jordan Morgan left tackle without having to help him with the tight end on every play. As far as the development track, it's slow. Now, I think you can speed that up by, and I mean, just this as offensive line, not for Jordan Morgan, just as offensive line. Some guys are good right away. Zach Tom was relatively good right away. Sheed was good in the second half of his second year. Sean Ryan hasn't really been good yet. And you can go back and look at some of these development tracks, man, from these other tackles that have been taken. And there's some ugly offensive line choices the last 3 years in the first round. You can go look at them. But some of them are starting to come around. And that is really more, especially at tackle, the normal development track. I think, and I have to look too, but I think like Lindsley and Wells played early at center for the Packers and were just serviceable immediately and then eventually very good. That kind of bucks the trend. Obviously, Bakhtiari was very good at pass pro immediately and then eventually became also a very good run blocker and basically a Hall of Fame tackle. Normally, though, second part of year 2, early, year 3 is when if an offensive lineman's going to hit, especially if you start changing positions. And that lines up kind of fine with what Green Bay has now, right? Because you have Sheed under contract for a while. You have Zach Tom under contract for a while. Elton can play tackle if you absolutely need him to, right? Sean Ryan, I think, can play tackle in an emergency. They're fine if Jordan Morgan flops, which I'm not saying is going to happen, but I'm just talking about if Jordan Morgan isn't awesome until year 3, it's probably fine. And if they don't mess around with the position that he plays a ton, I think you can kind of shorten that development track. As far as improvements that can and probably should be made, he has a little bit of a habit of oversetting or even getting too open. I think some of that has to do with his lack of length, because if he doesn't get out, right, he doesn't have the length to recover. He has very good recovery instincts, though. Sometimes he'll get himself in a terrible position. He's just so flexible and so athletic that he'll at least not get the quarterback killed, anyway. And just getting his hands too far outside. And that, I think, if you're going to take a moldable ball of clay, which he is, I can't think of two guys better than Butkus and Stenovich to work with him. And that's really going to be my ultimate take on Jordan Morgan and the look forward. Immediate look forward, I think he's going to be in that left tackle, left guard conversation. I would not put him at right guard, at least this year. I just wouldn't do it. They might. But at the same time, too, like cross training has to be important, because they cannot just continue to have all these left side guys. Sheed has to be able to prove that he can play right tackle for whatever depth conversation we're going to have. They might have to tell Dillard to just suck it up, unless Sheed can play right tackle, because then Dillard can be your backup left side of the offensive line guy if he's your 8th or 9th offensive lineman. But the cross training stuff is going to be super important because of the lack of bodies that have proven they can play the right-hand side of the line. Ultimately, though, I thought it was a good pick. I thought it was really solid. It made a ton of sense. I had that X thread or that Twitter thread that broke down all the linemen that are probably not, Packers, and it all went all the way down. It was like 8 tweets and it ended with Jordan Morgan. And it's not to say, oh, Ross, you're so smart, but the point was that he's their guy. This is how they do business with guys like Jordan Morgan. A lot of times it's in round 3, round 4, round 5. But they felt really strongly about this. I think there's every chance he's a good left tackle. I think he could be a pretty special interior guy, especially if we're just talking about keeping Jordan Love clean from interior pass rushers that can really, really screw up an offense. But I'm waiting and ready to see if he can't play tackle. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you're on the podcast side, check me out. I'm at Ross Uglum on X. Thanks for buying the draft guide, folks. I know I've said that before, and we're not still selling it. But thank you so much for buying the draft guide. Check out our shop with Capace Collective. Check out our shop. You can find the links to that. We got some really, really cool Packer Report merch. Maybe Andy can drop a link to the shop in my episodes. That'll be a good test to see if Andy's watching now. But do everything you're supposed to do here at the Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube feed. Like, subscribe, click the bell, get the notifications so that you can get all the Packers content that you need on a daily basis. Have a great rest of your day, folks, and go Pack Go.